Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Hmm.
Today, we are going to be looking at how some of those big tech companies, the huge ones, Apple, Google, Amazon, they're facing some pretty big challenges to their power. It's kind of like David and Goliath, but like with algorithms,
Yeah.
And we're talking billions of dollars. We've got some articles here, and they're really interesting. They get into all the legal battles that are going on right now, the rise of AI competitors, new regulations, all that stuff. I think this is going to be really interesting. Like, did you know that Apple might have to let you download apps from somewhere besides their app store?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, it's wild. And Google's facing a competitor that could, like, totally change how we search the internet.
It's not just like trends changing or anything, like market trends. It's like a possible total power shift
Whoa.
because of all these things, new regulations, competition, AI, lawsuits, the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with that first big challenge, the European Union's Digital Markets Act.
Oh, the DMA.
The
Yeah.
DMA.
The DMA, it's kind of like a superhero, but digital,
Okay.
fighting for fairness online. It goes after those really big online platforms, the ones they call gatekeepers, Apple, Google, Amazon. So they can't unfairly control everything. And if they don't follow the rules, the consequences are huge.
So, like, what happens if these companies don't follow the rules?
Well, they could be fined like 10% of their global revenue. That's for a company like Apple, we're talking billions potentially.
Wow.
But it's not just the money. Like for Apple, the DMA could force them to allow competing app stores.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and alternative payment systems, all on iPhones.
So wait, are you saying, like, we could download apps without using Apple's App Store?
Exactly.
Wow.
Like, think about it. You could choose where to get your apps, maybe even stores with lower fees for
Oh,
developers.
so cheaper apps.
Maybe cheaper apps, yeah.
Okay.
The DMA wants to give users, more choice, more control over everything.
So more options, maybe lower prices. Sounds pretty good to me, I guess. I mean, how do you think this would change how people use their iPhones?
Yeah.
Would they be into it? Or would they just stick to what they know? You know what I mean?
That's a really good question. It's like, is it more convenient, or do you want more options? It's tough.
Yeah.
And, this doesn't just affect Apple. The DMA impacts Google and Amazon too.
Right.
But for now, let's just stick with Apple, and see how it might shake things up for them.
Okay, so DMA, it's all about leveling the playing field for apps, payments, all that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something else that could totally change things.
Oh, yeah.
Artificial intelligence. It's not just like science fiction stuff anymore. We've all heard of ChatGPT. It used to be this fun chatbot, and now it's like changing how we look for information.
Yeah, think about how we used to search, like back in the day. You'd type in all these keywords into Google, and then you'd have to look through pages and pages of results. AI is going to make that disappear.
Whoa.
Gone.
Gone. Okay.
Yeah.
So how is this revolution happening? How is this all happening with AI?
Take Microsoft, for instance.
Okay.
They put the technology behind ChatGPT right into their search engine, Bing.
Oh.
So all of a sudden, Bing is a way bigger competitor for Google now.
Yeah.
And Google's been on top for so long. It's crazy.
Yeah. So Google finally has a real competitor.
Mm-hmm.
But how does this AI search actually work? Because that sounds like a big change.
It really is, yeah. Old search engines, they just match keywords, right? AI is different. It gets what you mean when you search. Your intent, let's say you search for best hiking trails, right? AI would look at your location, maybe how fit you are, even the weather, to give you personalized results just for you.
Okay. So I use Google every day, like most people. So what does this mean for me? Is Google going to be gone?
It's definitely possible. I mean, we might be moving toward a future where Google isn't the only place to find information. It might not be the automatic go-to anymore. We could see a bunch of different search tools and everyone can choose the best one for what they need. And that actually brings us to another big challenge that big tech is facing right now: legal battles and antitrust rulings. This isn't just boring legal stuff. This could change the rules for the whole internet.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what's going on with all this legal stuff?
Well, there was this U.S. antitrust ruling, and they found Google guilty
Oh, wow.
of using its power, its dominance to, crush competition.
So they were trying to keep their monopoly on search, basically.
Yeah, and it's like how they did it. That's really interesting.
What did he do?
Like they made deals with companies like Apple. They had these exclusive deals to make Google the default search engine on iPhones and other devices.
Oh,
So no
wow.
competitors, and that limited what consumers could choose, so that's not really fair.
So Google was playing by different rules than everybody else.
Pretty much, yeah.
What happens now? Like, what are the consequences?
They could be huge. Like the government might force Google to make some big changes to, how they do business.
Okay.
They could even make them end those deals with Apple, those exclusive deals.
So this could affect the whole tech industry, not just Google.
Exactly, yeah. It's a big deal.
Okay. So we've got the DMA, AI is like shaking everything up, and now this huge case against Google. It feels like everything's changing
Yeah, you're
in
right.
the tech world.
It's like a sign. Governments are starting to really try to control big tech's power. And these changes could affect everyone who uses the internet.
So we've got the EU trying to level the playing field with the DMA, and now the US is taking action too. It seems like this is a global thing
Yeah.
to make the internet more fair
Right.
and more competitive. But what about AI?
Oh, yeah.
How does AI fit into all of this?
That's a good question. It's not just disruptive. AI could change everything. We've talked about search, but it goes way beyond that. AI could completely change healthcare, education, how we transport things, even energy, everything. It could impact all parts of our lives.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
What are some examples of how AI could, actually change things for the better?
Well, imagine AI that can help doctors diagnose diseases earlier
Oh, wow.
and more accurately. So that means better treatments.
Yeah.
Or imagine AI tools that make education personalized so every student can learn the best way for them. And what about self-driving cars? Safer roads, less traffic? I mean, think about it. The possibilities are pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible. But we've all seen those movies where the robots take over. Are there any risks with AI that we need to think about?
Yeah, you're right. Every powerful technology has, some risks.
Well-
With AI, we have to be really careful about things like, bias. It could cause job losses. And people could even use it for bad things.
Right.
It's not just about making cool new AI. It's about making sure it's ethical, responsible.
Yeah. So we need a plan, right? A roadmap
Exactly.
to make sure AI is used for good and it helps everyone.
Yeah, that's the big question. And we have to all answer it together. Governments, researchers, the tech companies, everyone. We have to make sure AI helps everyone, not just a few people.
Okay, this is so interesting. We
Oh,
started
yeah.
talking about app stores, and now we're talking about AI changing the world. It feels like we're at a turning point, right?
Yeah.
The decisions we make now are going to decide what the future of tech looks like.
Yeah, you're right, we are. And while we're focused on AI and regulations and all that, there's something else we should think about. Human connection.
Wait, human connection.
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about tech.
We are, but remember, technology is just a tool, right? It's how we use it that matters. And we need to be careful, because we're using technology more and more, but how does that affect how we connect with each other?
Yeah.
In real life as humans.
So you're saying even though everything's becoming digital, we still need to connect with other people.
Yeah, totally. We can't let technology replace those real life things. It's easy to get lost in the digital world and forget to have, real conversations with people.
Yeah.
Or spend time with them, do things together.
It's easy to forget about that when we're always on our phones and stuff.
Totally.
So how do we find that balance? How do we make sure technology is helping us, but not taking over?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's like you said, it's all about balance. We can use technology to stay in touch with people, even if they're far away, or build communities, find people who have the same interests. We can even find resources that help us, feel better, for our mental health.
Right.
But we also need to make time to see people, in person.
Yeah.
Put the phone down. Do things that, make you feel good.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. It's
Yeah.
about using technology to make things better, not letting it run our lives.
Exactly.
But, okay, let's go back to big tech for a minute. We've talked about all the challenges they're facing. What do you think is going to happen? Are they going to figure it out and do okay? Or are they going to, fall apart?
That's the big question, isn't it? Let's, imagine the future for a second. Okay, so one thing that could happen is they could decide to, embrace the changes, see the challenges as a chance to, grow and innovate.
So instead of fighting it, they just like go with it.
Yeah, exactly. Think about it. They have so much money, so many resources, and they have all these experts. They could use all of that to make new things, new products and services, things that follow the rules and like what people want these days.
So like they could invest a lot in AI and machine learning, make those experiences even better, more personalized.
Exactly. Or they could really focus on privacy, make technologies that give people more control over their data, like turning the challenge into something good.
Okay. So one future is big tech gets bigger, but in a way that people want and regulators allow, right? But what if they don't change? What's the worst that could happen?
If they don't adapt, they could just like fade away,
Oh, wow.
become irrelevant.
Okay.
Other companies, the more agile ones, they'll take over.
So they'd be like the dinosaurs, basically.
Exactly. Couldn't adapt, couldn't survive. But it's not just about one company, right? It's about what happens to the whole internet.
Yeah, what the internet will be like for all of us.
Exactly, yeah. What the governments and these big tech companies decide now, it's going to affect the internet for a long time, maybe forever. Are we going to be stuck with just a few huge companies in control? Or are we going to have more options, more, fairness? Where anyone can come up with something new and succeed. It's tough to say. It's complicated, right? That's what makes this whole thing so interesting. We're trying to figure out what's going to shape the internet and how that'll affect all of us.
Yeah. It feels like we're at a really important moment. The internet could be totally different in a few years.
Oh, for sure. So I think we should talk about something else that big tech is dealing with right now. User privacy. Remember how the DMA wants to protect people by giving them more control of their data? Well, it's not just Europe that's doing that. All over the world, governments are trying to make rules about how these tech companies can collect our information and what they can do with it.
I think it's about time. I hate feeling like I'm being watched online everywhere I go.
Yeah.
So what could these new rules do for our privacy, like specifically?
Well, one thing is they're trying to stop companies from using our data for targeted ads.
Oh,
Those ads that follow you everywhere. Maybe we won't see those as much.
Oh, that would be great.
It's not just about feeling like creeped out, though.
Yeah.
It's about having the right to privacy and like being able to decide what happens to our information.
Right.
You know?
So this is good for people who use the internet.
It's definitely a win for users, yeah.
All right.
But what about those smaller tech companies? How does all this affect them?
Yeah.
That's where it gets really interesting. More rules could actually help those smaller companies and startups.
So that the big companies can't just use their power to crush the little guys.
Exactly. Like, think about the app market. Instead of your favorite app being like lost in a sea of apps from those big companies, you might find all these cool new apps you never knew about.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So more choices, more new stuff. I like that.
Yeah.
But it's not just apps, right?
No, not at all. More rules means more competition everywhere, from search engines to like those websites where you buy stuff. It could mean lower prices, better stuff, more choices for everyone.
So it's like a power shift happening in the tech world.
Yeah.
Governments are stepping in to make sure everything's fair, that there's competition. It's like a whole new internet.
Yeah, it's a big change, a big moment for the internet. And what happens now, what these governments and tech companies decide, it's going to be really important for a long time.
All right, so we've talked about all the legal stuff big tech is dealing with, AI coming up as competition, and how we might get a more balanced internet. We've covered a lot.
Yeah, we have.
But there's one more thing I'm curious about. We talked about how AI is changing search, but it feels like it's more than that.
Oh, yeah.
What other industries is AI disrupting? What's next for AI, do you think?
It's not just disruptive, it's like a revolution. AI could totally change so many industries, like healthcare, education, transportation, energy. We're just getting started. It's crazy to think about what it could do.
Okay, this is getting really interesting. Tell me more about how AI could change those industries.
Imagine, like, medical devices that use AI
Okay.
to find diseases way earlier than we can now, so we can treat them better.
Oh, wow.
And what if education used AI tools to make learning personalized for each student so they can, like, learn the best way for them?
That'd be amazing. But, I'm thinking with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
What are some of the things that could go wrong with AI? What do we need to be careful about?
Oh, for sure. We have to be careful. Like with any powerful technology,
Yeah.
one big thing is bias in AI algorithms. We have to make sure these AI systems are fair and they don't make things worse for people who are already disadvantaged.
Right, that's a good point. I mean, we've already seen some AI systems that aren't fair because of the
Right.
data they were trained on, right?
Right.
So what can we do about that?
Well, it's not easy. We have to do a few things. Like, we need to use more diverse data to train these systems, data that represents everyone.
Okay.
And we need to involve people who study ethics in society.
Oh, interesting.
Make them part of the process of developing AI. And we need to have, like, checks and balances
Okay.
to make sure AI is used fairly and responsibly,
So it's not just about the tech itself, it's about the people who make it and the rules they follow. We have to build AI that helps everyone, not just some people.
Exactly, yeah. We need to talk about, like, the ethics of it all and
Yeah.
work together to create rules that will guide how AI is made and used.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about bias, but what about jobs? I know a lot of people are worried AI is going to take their jobs.
Oh, yeah, that's a real concern. And it's something we need to deal with now before it's too late.
Yeah.
Some jobs will definitely be automated, but AI will also create new jobs,
Oh, definitely.
new industries that we can't even imagine right now.
So it's not just about losing jobs, it's about people needing to learn new skills for new jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about transitioning, right, retraining, learning new stuff.
So how do we prepare people for all these changes AI is going to bring?
Education is going to be really important. We have to
Yeah.
teach people the skills they'll need to, succeed in this new world with AI everywhere. And it's not just technical stuff like coding and data.
Right.
It's also things like critical thinking, creativity, problem solving. Those are things AI can't really do.
Those are all human things.
Exactly.
So it sounds like to succeed in a world with AI, we're going to need a whole new kind of education, one that teaches people to be flexible, Keep learning and adapt because things will keep changing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just about learning one specific thing. It's about learning how to learn,
Yeah.
and being able to change with the times.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of stuff with AI, how it could help, how it could be risky. We talked about how it could change healthcare and education, and how important it is to, stay connected as humans, even with all this tech.
It's pretty wild to think about. We're living in a time when things are changing so fast.
Totally. We're right on the edge of, like, a tech revolution, and what we decide now, the choices we make, they'll affect everything. It's a big responsibility.
It is exciting, but also kind of scary.
Yeah.
We've talked about a lot in this deep dive. The pressure on these big tech companies, AI changing everything, and how we need to remember to connect with each other, like real human connection.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. We talked about how governments are starting to regulate big tech, how AI is shaking up whole industries, and we talked about the good things and the bad things that could come from AI, and how we need to be careful about, the ethics of it all.
It feels like we're at this really important point in time, like everything could change really fast.
Yeah, it really does.
So if there was just one thing you want our listeners to remember from this deep dive, what would it be?
That's a good question. I guess it would be that the future isn't already decided. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
not set in stone.
Right.
We all have a say in it, in what the future of technology will be, by the choices we make every day.
Yeah, that's a really powerful way to think about it.
Uh-huh.
So what can our listeners do, to make good choices and be part of shaping the future of technology?
Well, first of all, keep learning. Don't just stop here, Keep
Sure.
learning about all these technologies, the good and the bad, and all the possibilities.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to ask questions, Like, really think about how technology affects your life and
Yeah.
how it affects everyone.
That makes sense. We can't just sit back and let it happen to us.
Exactly, yeah. Be
Yeah.
active, be involved, think for yourself.
So what else can we do?
Support companies and organizations that, share your values. Like, choose to buy from companies that care about privacy and fairness and that are developing AI responsibly and ethically. And don't forget, your voice matters. Talk to your representatives. Tell them you want policies that support good innovation, where technology actually helps people and doesn't just, like, take advantage of them.
Those are all really good points.
Mhm.
It's good to remember that we have power.
Yeah.
We're not just along for the ride.
Exactly. We can make a difference.
So we've talked about the pressure big tech is under,
Mm-hmm.
all the lawsuits and the competition from AI,
Right.
and the potential for AI to totally change everything, but also the importance of staying human in all of this.
We've seen how all of these things are connected and how they're really shaping the future of tech in big ways.
It's been a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, it has.
But before we go, I have one last question for everyone listening.
No.
We've seen what happens when one company gets too big, right?
Yeah.
It crushes competition and we have less choice.
Hmm.
So what would a future look like where things are more balanced? What would that mean for you as a consumer, as someone who uses all this technology every day?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Something to think about. Imagine, an internet where there's all kinds of different options and everyone has a fair chance,
Okay.
where people are coming up with new ideas all the time and technology helps everyone. What would your role be in making that happen?
Wow, that's a great question. I think we'll leave it there for today.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun.
And we'll see you next time.
Until next time, stay curious.